And now we're going to talk about some symptoms for you to pay attention to. In the event that you receive a virus, a worm, or there's something fishy going on that you unintentionally double-clicked on a program, you want to pay attention to the behavior of your system. You want to see if there's any pop-ups that come up. You want to pay attention to the system slowness. You want to pay attention to see if there's small little programs running in the background. If there's icons that are installed on your desktop or programs that were installed without your knowledge, I would raise your hand at that point with your IT department and say, hey, I'm experiencing these symptoms. Can you please take a look at our computer? And again, your disk space starts running out of, your hard drive will start running out of disk space. Your computer seems completely sluggish or slow. There's pop-ups coming up. There's even messages that say, hey, you may or may not have a virus. And some of these messages are fairly sophisticated. Well, they'll say, hey, we'll go ahead and remove your virus if you pay for our service. Those can be viruses themselves. So I would always consult with your IT department or your IT professional to do further analysis and investigation on that system. And a lot of times they may go unnoticed, and that's the bad part, is that you have some viruses and worms and malicious software, malware that get installed that's pretty evident with the symptoms we mentioned. But oftentimes there's also symptoms there's no symptoms. You don't know that you're infected. You don't know that you have a virus on your system. And we're also going to discuss some best practices to prevent that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about some preventive measures and things that you can do, softwares that you can install to protect you against viruses and hackers. We begin by talking about a firewall. A firewall essentially acts as a filter between your computer and the internet. This protects you from any sort of incoming traffic or anyone that's trying to access your computer remotely. The firewall is there as a filter. Basically protects you from between you, your home, your business, and the internet. And we're also going to talk about antivirus. Okay, it's important to make sure that your computers at home, your computers at the workplace, they all have an antivirus solution, as well as spyware solution, malware solutions, that sort of thing. They come in packages now. It's not only making sure that you have it installed and running, but make sure that the virus definitions are updated. There's thousands of definitions that get released on a daily basis at times, and it's important to make sure that your system is set to automatically update on a daily basis, or that your IT administrators have this configured to make sure it's constantly and often being updated. And that's going to be your first line of defense from a software standpoint. The first line of defense is truly is your best practices, like we talked about safety, right? It's the behavior that you take. Understanding that if you're receiving an email from a sender that you really don't know who it is, don't open it. Send it to your IT department for it to be checked. If you're receiving an email from a merchant asking you for personal information, don't do it. Don't do it. Let's verify this information. Let's call that merchant. And if we take the steps as end users, as employees, that's the first line of defense, and we can prevent a lot of damage and a lot of financial loss, essentially from either because computers become corrupted, your work gets interrupted, and with viruses that spread across the network, it may render data useless, and then you have to rely on my last part of our discussion, which is backup. Okay, make sure you're if you have important files that you're working with, whether it be financial files, accounting files, system files, whatever files you may, Word, Excel, PowerPoints, these are important files to your operations or to your day-to-day operations. These are files that you want to back up. You want to back up these files. And there's enterprise solutions as well as there's client-based solutions. Whatever the solution may be, you want to make sure that your files are being backed up either at the enterprise level or at the desktop My Documents level to ensure that in the event that we do have a catastrophe and you do get a virus, some of the options to restore service from a virus or a worm is to completely wipe out your hard drive to make sure there's no residual left over. It's a lot of times these machines have to be rebuilt, and in order to restore your data, we would have to have a valid backup. So make sure that you have your backups available as well as recent backups. And again, work with your IT department to make sure that's on. Remember, there's as we move forward with technology and move forward with the emerges of new technology, there's always going to be viruses. There's always going to be attempts to steal your identity. The first line of defense begins with you. Be aware be aware of your email. Be aware of the websites you're surfing. Be aware of making sure you have protection on your system. Changing your passwords, using good passwords, not weak passwords, but using lengthy, complex passwords, and making sure your antivirus softwares are up to date. Paying attention to how you operate, making sure safety is your priority as well as security, and at the end of all this, make sure you have solid backups. Make sure you have valid backups and recent backups in the event that anything ever needs to be restored. Your IT department has the ability to do so. Again, my name is Art Gamino. I'm the Remote Operation Center Manager at Optimum Networking, Inc. And thank you for your time.